Hello and welcome back to episode 134, Talk of Fame podcast with your host, Kylie. I'm very excited to have on teen reporter and owner of Luna and Lola, Addison Briann. Thanks so much for coming on, Addison.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. So you are a teen reporter that has interviewed many stars like Nathan Buzek, and Schumer, and Chase Coleman. How did you get into reporting? And stuff. Is he done tons of interviews and you're so young. How old are you? 16?
I'm 16, yeah.
Ooh, yeah. How did you get into interviewing? Because I got to interviewing at 14, but I'm 16 now, but I got into interviewing at 14.
Honestly, I would say social media is kind of what led me to it. I started social media when I was in like fourth grade and I posted like cheerleading videos and stuff. But like over time it turned away from cheerleading a little bit. I came across teen reporting like I want to say in like June or July, maybe like into June. My mom was like, "Hey, do you want to like try this like teen reporting thing?" And I was like, I guess like I'll give it a shot. Like, why not? Um, so I went to Miami Swim Week. That was like the first place I ever did interviews, and it was like way different than what I do now. But it was so cool. And so we were heading back home from Miami, and I was like scrolling on Instagram, and I came across this like post from Tyler Posey. Tyler Posey is the guy who plays the main character in Teen Wolf, and I love him. And he was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be at this convention in August, you should come meet me." And I look at my mom and I'm like, oh my gosh, we should go to South Carolina and meet Tyler Posey. She was like, yeah, we totally should. And so we were kind of talking about it. And she was like, I wonder if they would want a teen reporter. And I was like, I mean, maybe like you should reach out just in case, you know? Um, and then a month later, I'm interviewing Tyler Posey at the convention. So it was pretty crazy, like how we like stumbled upon it. It was kind of just like, we should see if they would want that. And now here we are, and I'm like interviewing all of these people, which is so crazy.
Hmm. You interviewed a lot of people from Vampire Diaries, right?
Yeah, so then that was like the first convention was like the one with the Teen Wolf stars. And the people who run the convention, I love them. They're all amazing. They were like, we want you to come back for the next convention we're doing in October. It's Vampire Diaries, like you should come. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, because I'm obsessed with Vampire Diaries and like all of the Vampire Diaries stars. And I was like, oh my gosh, imagine if I could interview some of them because like Teen Wolf is exciting and I love Teen
Mm-hmm.
Wolf, but not on the same scale that I love Vampire Diaries. So I was very excited.
Who's your favorite Vampire Diaries or Teen Wolf character? Do you have a favorite or you're like all of them?
Elijah Michelson from Vampire Diaries, Daniel Gillies. I love him. He's 100% my favorite.
And you I know people are obsessed with Vampire Diaries and stuff. I know a lot of people are obsessed with Ian Swolhander. I don't know how to say his last name
Summerholder.
honestly. What was
It's
he
hard to
like? I know you got
pronounce.
to interview him as well.
Yeah, that one, he's such an insane guy. He's like so kind and caring. That one was definitely like because he's kind of intimidating, but he's really sweet. So like I was like taking deep breaths before that one. I was like, it's okay. I'm about to interview Ian Somerhalder. Deep breaths. It's gonna be okay.
Is he as cute in person?
Oh, 100%. He's mesmerizing. In the interview, I got a lot of comments and people are like, why is she like looking like up and down? And I'm like, because you can't stare at his eyes for too long. They're so blue. It's like you
Mm.
get put in a trance. And so I had to keep looking away from his eyes because he's like just staring into my soul.
Yeah, because if you look into your eyes, you forget what you have to say and what you were trying to do in the first
Yeah, I
place.
would
You're
have totally just been like, whoa.
And with and interviewing and stuff, how do you prepare for interviews? Is there any specific things you do to prepare?
I read over I so before a convention, I kind of like make a list of like every single attending star and I kind of like prepare questions for every single one of them. Like some questions are repeats, but I try to come with like specific questions for each person that relates specifically to like their character. And so I have like a notes app on my phone and before each interview when I like it's always like me just kind of standing somewhere waiting for them to show up. And so like I'm like taking deep breaths, like I said, and I read over the questions like 800 times because honestly, the thing that stresses me out the most is that I'm gonna forget the question.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which like wouldn't really think that that'd be something that would stress you out a whole lot, but like trying to remember each one of them because there's so many for each different interview. It's like I pretty much read over it like 100 times before each interview.
Yeah, like that's like my biggest issue is that like I'm like if I do like an in-person interview, like I'll basically memorize the question that I'm like, oh shoot, like if I forget this question, I'm going to literally regret it for the rest of my life. Like this is what would be the worst feeling. How have you had that experience of forgetting like your questions?
I forgot a question once, and it was with Tyler Posey because he was probably like the biggest person that I was like the most obsessed with that I interviewed first. Like my first ever like super big interview was with him. And so I was like, I was really nervous and I was doing really good. And then I forgot like my favorite question that I was the most excited to ask him, which was kind of strange, but he's so nice. And so I forgot it. I was like, oh shoot, I just forgot my question. And he's like, it's okay. Journalism is hard, man. Like I get it. And I was like, let me find the question. He was like, you got this, you're good. Like he was so supportive.
And like, is like Tyler Posey that your favorite interview done, or like, do you have like, or is there someone else that you have a favorite interview? Because like Tyler Posey seems like the sweetest person on earth.
He is definitely the sweetest person on earth, but I would say my favorite is probably my interview with Daniel Gillies
Oh
or
yeah.
Elijah, because he's the one that, like I said, I'm the most obsessed with. But I feel like his interview is probably one of the most interesting ones for other people to watch too, because he loves to talk.
Oh
Like his
yeah.
interview, I asked him the same amount of questions as I did most everyone else, but his was like a good 3 minutes longer. And I feel like it just helps because a lot of people will just give like one sentence responses. And so
Oh
like it's good and it's fun to watch because you love them. But with him, it's like he went on and on about some of the most random things. So it was pretty funny.
yeah, that's what it is that like with like some interviews, like you like it might seem boring because people might answer this one sentence answer. They'll be like, oh yeah, I do that. Like that's basically what I do. But it's like if it's like people kind of talk more and like give more interesting, give facts behind it, I feel like it's like it brings more entertainment and more interesting to the interview, I feel.
Definitely. Also, so I wasn't sure if I was going to get the chance to interview him. And the year before for Christmas, I'd gotten like a cameo from him, which is basically just like a video that the
Mhm.
star will make for you. And you kind of like can send them like what you want them to talk about and stuff. And so my parents got me one for Christmas. And in it, he talked about this blanket that I had with his face on it. And he was like, to Addison's parents, I'm so sorry about that. And so I made a joke to my mom. I was like, if I get to interview him, I should show him that clip from the cameo and then pull out the blanket and ask him to sign it.
Ooh,
And
that's a good idea.
he agreed to the interview. And I was like, oh my gosh, now I feel like I have to do that. So I did it. And it was probably the funniest thing ever because I showed him the cameo and he was kind of like, all right, like he was a little confused on what I was doing. And then I pull out the blanket and his face, he died. And his handler was standing off to the side and you can hear her laughing her butt off in the background. Like we were all just dying. Um, but he also ended up not signing his name. He signed his best friend's name because at the beginning of the interview, he introduced himself as someone else. I was like, and I'm joined with, and he said, Joseph Morgan, even though that's not his name. And so then I think like he thought about that when he was signing it. And so he signed Joseph Morgan instead of Daniel Gillies.
That's actually hilarious. Did you expect him to put his different name, or you're like, oh, okay, he just put a different
I
name?
had no idea because I was one of the people holding the blanket up. So I didn't even realize that he didn't sign his name until after the interview was over and he had walked away. I was like, wait, and I held up the blanket and I kind of looked at it and I was like, that's not his name.
But at least you have a signature on it, though. That's kind of like
Yeah.
matters, though, right?
Yeah. I think it's
And
more special because it's not his name.
yeah, it makes it more special. You're like, oh, well, like he just put his best friend's name. At least I know who his best friend is, right? Like I was like,
Yeah.
you know, it's always like remember his name, even though it's on my blanket signed.
Um, sorry, what can you say that again?
Like it's like if it feels like it's more memorable because like if your best his best friend signed it, you can always like remember his name, even though like yeah,
Yeah.
if
And they play brothers on the show, and so they're kind of like famous for being like just really funny best friends. And
Mm-hmm.
so a lot of people, like when I posted the video, they were all laughing about it because it's like it's such a him thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like so on point for his personality.
Mm-hmm. And like, do you have like any upcoming projects with like interviews, your business? Like, do you have any upcoming like projects for this year?
So we actually have another Vampire Diaries convention next month, mid-April. So that's really exciting. There's a lot of like new stars coming that I haven't met before, so I'm really hoping to get the chance to interview some of them. And then I'm excited because Daniel's coming back, so hopefully I'll get to see him again. Um, that's probably like the next biggest thing that I'm like preparing for because it's getting so close.
Like, have you have you interviewed like some of the Vampire Diaries stars couple multiple times, or you just basically interview like once at a time? Like you only interview them once? Because I know like for some like interviewers, they only interviewed some stars once and it's never interviewed them again.
So I'll pretty much do it as many times as they say yes. So Zach Rorig, he played Matt Donovan on the Vampire Diaries. I saw him at the first convention, like the kind of like Teen Wolf one. It was a few other shows too, and he was in one of those. So I met him for the first time at that convention, and I interviewed him there, but it wasn't really as focused on Vampire Diaries. And so then at the Vampire Diaries convention, I was like, "Hey, you want to do an interview?" And he was like, "I feel like I know you." And I was like, "I interviewed you at the last," so I interviewed him again. And I'm imagining that's kind of what's going to happen for the next convention too.
Like I feel like if like you interview them like at like summer four and they basically know you, like they recognize you, I feel like they will say yes since you basically already met them, I feel.
Yeah, and I think that they'll like as I go on, the more times I interview them, the more fun it'll be because like they'll
Mhm.
know me, I'll know them. It'll kind of be like more like just a conversation, like playing around and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, plus, I think like I get more comfortable. It's like the first time doing it is like so scary. I'm like, oh my gosh, like freaking out because I'm about to interview them. But then the second time, it's like I've already done this once before. I can do it again, you know?
Yeah, because like they you would know kind of how they are and I kind of know their personality. Like when I met
Yeah,
like my idol, I was so nervous, and then I met him a million times after for his Broadway show, and like as times went on, you just kind of get more comfortable with their personality.
yeah,
Like that for me, that's kind of how it felt, but like for everyone's different depending on the celebrity, but like it's just kind of like once you kind of talk to them, you get more comfortable and they basically know who you are as time goes on, especially if you see them
yeah,
or interview them more often.
yeah. You just get more comfortable with each other. So.
Like I know you said like, you went to like Miami Swim League. Are you originally from Florida or are you from somewhere else?
I live in Florida, but I'm originally from Missouri. So,
Oh, really?
yeah,
Ooh,
but
that's
I
sick.
like Florida better.
Yeah, Florida is like my favorite place on earth. Like if I had a chance to go there every week, I definitely would. Like it's
Oh
so
yeah, it's
nice.
it's amazing. I mean, I get up like one of my favorite things to do is to get up like at sunrise and go to the beach. And like it's so
Mm.
nice to have the beach like right there. Like it's literally 15 minutes away from my house. So it's so nice.
Like the last time I was in like Florida for like my brother's like baseball, I literally just like every morning I would just like walk out into the deck and just sit outside and watch the wind blow. Like it's just like
Yeah.
just take it in. It's like Florida weather. Like I'd rather be in Florida weather than be in Pennsylvania's cold and snowy area. Like the palm trees, is the beach. Like it's just something about it that's like makes me
It's so
obsessed with
like peaceful and calm.
yeah, I know. It's just like even if you're having a bad day, I'm like, oh, I just go to the beach and just make myself feel better.
Exactly. You know, no, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling sad today. Oh, I'll just go to the beach. That'll make me happy.
Yeah, and like you are like the owner of Luna and Lola. Like, what kind of products do you like sell in your business? As I know, like, you guys you sell like a bunch of Harry Styles things, Vampire Diaries, like you sell all those things.
So originally when I started, it wasn't called Luna and Lola. It was called Luna Cases. And so it kind of started with phone cases. That's still kind of like the majority of what I sell, but over time I added on, I have like a bunch of like car decorations now, like little air fresheners to hang from like your rearview mirror, car coasters, some like t-shirts and some like hoodies and stuff like that. Um, Mostly I would say like car decor and phone cases though.
And like, how do you like design your items? that you sell in your business? Is there any specific website? Like, do you like make them by hand? Like, how do you kind of like make them? Or is this someone that does it for you?
So I start by designing them. I usually like go on Pinterest and I like kind of find different like inspiration,
Mm,
kind of things to like put together to make what I want to make. And then once I have a design, I use sublimation. So it's basically like this special kind of ink, and I print it out like on a special kind of paper, and then you stick whatever like so like the phone case, I'll tape it down to the piece of paper, and then I heat press it, and the heat causes the ink from the paper to transfer onto the phone case.
mm,
So it's pretty cool.
like I feel like
I
Pinterest
make my
is
own
like the key
designs.
to everything, I feel, because every time I need inspiration, I literally look up Pinterest and just scroll through.
Pinterest is awesome.
Yeah, I feel like Pinterest is like the best app ever. Like I just like I don't know why, but like that's literally my favorite app. I like go on it every single day.
Yeah, it's so fun to like make different like boards and stuff too.
And like what made you want to start a business? Like did you just kind of want to like sell, like keep yourself busy and do like your passion, or it was like I never anticipated on starting a business, but like I really want you to like sell things and find people to connect with.
I've kind of like always been an entrepreneur. When I was, I always get these stories from like my parents and my grandparents and stuff. When I was little, when I was like 5 years old, 6 years old, I don't know, I was pretty little. Me and my best friend, we would make drawings and stuff, and we would go and sell them to my parents. We would sell them to my like grandpa. We would sell them to our neighbors. We'd be like, it's 25 cents for this drawing, and we're like two cute little kids, so they're like, here you go, here's a quarter. Um, and then I was in fifth grade and I started a slime business. And that's like when I first opened Etsy. I sold little slimes on Etsy. I think I actually sold a few, so that's kind of impressive. But then after that, I tried selling hair bows for a minute. That I don't think I ever sold a single one. I tried selling like friendship bracelets for a second. Don't think I ever sold a single one of those either. I sold stickers. I forgot about that. I made like Visco was like a thing, like the Visco girls era, and you
Oh
could like make
yeah.
stickers. I made stickers and I sold them to like girls on my cheer team because people love to decorate their water bottles at cheer. So I did that. And then eventually I came across like the idea of making phone cases. And I have like always like collected phone cases. I loved having like a bunch of different ones. And so I was like, this would be a good idea to try. And so I tried it and it started doing really good. And I was really surprised because I'd done so many different businesses and none of them had ever done well like that. And so I just kept designing more. And then over time, when I figured out you could also use sublimation to make other things besides phone cases, that's when we switched from just being called Luna cases to Luna and Lola. And we added on like the car decor and all that kind of stuff.
No, that's amazing. And like the last thing like I have for you is like what is some advice for upcoming reporters or business owners that are just kind of starting out but don't know where to go?
For reporting, I feel like the biggest thing, we kind of talked about this earlier with like being comfortable with the person, but just talking like you're talking to like your best friend. Like you're just
Hmm.
having a conversation with your best friend. Because I get that comment on TikTok a lot when I post interviews. People will be like, how are you just like so calm, just like talking to them? And I'm like, I'm just pretending like I'm talking to someone I've known my whole life because the more like comfortable and calm I act, the more calm and like goofy the person I'm talking to will act.
Hmm.
And if I'm like scared and uptight, then the person I'm interviewing will also be kind of like not, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. They won't be as calm. So then, honestly, like my first interviews where I was really nervous like that, I struggle to watch them back because you can just tell that I'm scared out of my mind. Um, so once that happened and I saw those, I was like, I need to act more calm. So that's kind of like where that started. And yeah, just like being comfortable with the person, like trying your best to stay as calm and collected as possible. It just makes the overall interview better.
Exactly. Like if like I feel like if you do interviews like with like your favorite actors or idols or something, I feel like you get more nervous, you shake, you get anxiety. Like that's how I felt like when I met some of my favorite people. I'm like, oh, I'm so nervous, I'm shaking. I don't know how I'm gonna last this interview. But then like you just need to remember that like just treat them like you're your best friend. Just like they're still human as well. Like you're having this like a normal conversation with them. Like just say like, hey, like I'm a big fan, blah blah blah. But then let's have a conversation. Like the more normal you act, I feel like the more normal conversation you're gonna have and not freak out. Because if you like have a normal conversation, it will kind of connect with them more, I feel.
Yeah, I always I freak out before I get to the interview. I'm super calm and collected for the interview, and I'll mention that like I'm a big fan or something after, but after the person like leaves, that's when I freak out. Like after
Mm.
I interviewed Ian, I had a few friends with me for that one because he did a couple of different things for us, but when we left, we all freaked out. Like I literally like fell on the ground. We were all like screaming like, "Oh my God, we just talked to Ian." Like we were freaking out. But when we were all in that room like with him, we were all super calm. We're like, "Thank you so much for doing this for us." Like super chill. And then we left the room and we freaked out.
Yeah, like, I just feel like before and after, like you're just kind of like freaking out so bad, but then like you're in the middle, you're like, okay, thank you, I'm a big fan, whatever. But then after you just freak out, like, oh my God, I want to pass out. Like that's how I feel like when I
Yeah.
meet some of my favorite stars, is like I freak out and like I just start crying. Like it's honestly like you just control your excitement. Like but in the middle of the thing, you're like, I just want to scream so bad. Like this is like a pinch me
Yeah.
something moment, I feel.
Yeah.
And like I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed talking to you and coming on. And where can people find you on social media if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. So you can find me, I believe all of my social media is Addison.Briann. Briann is spelled Briann. Um, that's my Instagram, my TikTok, my Snapchat. Yes. Oh, I also have a different Instagram account that's a little bit smaller. It's just for like my interviews and stuff mainly, and it's called Addie Asks or Addie.asks. So
Oh, perfect. I thank you so much for coming on and thank you for everyone tuning in. And thank you so much, Addison, for joining. I really appreciate your time.
of course, thank you for having me.
Of course, talk to you soon. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye.